Hi, thanks for tuning in. I'm Hannah Fatool.
And I'm Madeline Gibson.
And we're the producers of the Me Too Monologues.
Me Too Monologues is a series of monologues anonymously written by writers here at UNC and performed by our amazing cast. These monologues surround personal identity and experience. These monologues may contain content that is potentially triggering, including themes of sexuality, eating disorders, sexual assault, and drug addiction. If at any moment you feel uncomfortable, we invite you to turn your sound off and take the space you need for yourself.
We also want to acknowledge that the Center for Dramatic Arts is located on the unceded lands of one or more of Abiala's, the Americas' original sovereign nations, the names of which have not yet been affirmed. The unjust acquisition of these indigenous lands came about through a history of racism, violence, dispossession, displacement, and erasure of cultures by settlers as part of a larger land-centered project of settler colonialism. As we look to the future, please join us in acknowledging and learning about the atrocities committed against these nations and work with us toward inclusion, representation, and a better relationship with citizens of sovereign American Indian and Alaska Native nations. With that, we want to say a huge thank you to our cast and crew for all of the work they have put into this show.
Enjoy the show.
During the summer, when I was alone with my thoughts and no outside influence could touch me, I could have been confident saying I was a lesbian. In high school, I came out as bi. Lately, I've just been saying gay, trying to calculate my gay to straight ratio in percentages, but in the end, not really knowing or caring enough to micromanage the label. If high school had gone on forever, I would probably be gay now. But school started, and the boys began to trample the campus grounds. There's something ingrained in me. I can't explain what, but something that tells my mind to act a certain way around boys. Bat your eyelashes. No, act like you don't care. Do they think I'm attractive? No, I shouldn't care what they think. But I do. I guess it's this patriarchal society where even as a woman-loving woman, I seek romantic, even sexual validation from guys. The male gaze, if you will. Or maybe my own gaze? Maybe I and only I put this pressure onto myself. Or maybe I do like boys as well, but why then do I dislike them when I'm alone? I feel like I need to write a pros and cons list. Girls. Pros. Soft. Attractive. Easy to understand. In my experience, less pressure in relationships. Guys. Pros. Shit. I guess there's my answer.
I guess I should have known I had a problem when I couldn't help but do it 4 times a day. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Drug addict. But no, I wasn't getting high or popping pills all day, although that probably would have been a lot more fun. And for all you pervs out there, no, I was not a sex addict. Wish I got that much action. Once upon a time, I would make 4 trips to the bathroom a day in order to make myself throw up. Gross, I know. And while I've forgotten a lot of what my headspace was like during that time in my life, I haven't gotten the routine out of my mind. Enter the stall, complete said task, exit the stall, toothbrush, mouthwash, and mission accomplished. I know it may sound weird to call this kind of extracurricular a mission. Don't worry, I'm aware it's less of a mission and more of an addiction, but at the time that is what it felt like. I know no one likes to talk about eating disorders. They're scary and unnatural and seem like a personal choice, but trust me, My eating disorder was never something I chose. I get why that's so hard for people to understand. Even now, in my 3rd year of recovery, it still feels confusing. Like, how did I get so lost in my life that the act of sitting down for a meal felt like my enemy? But then, I think about how hard life is, and being young, that shit is fucking hard. Mm-hmm. And you can't talk to your parents about how hard it is, because most of the time, they'll just respond, try being 65 years old and divorced, then you'll miss being young. Which leaves me thinking, well, shit, that's probably true. My dad tried hard to understand my illness, but he struggled a lot. And he's a therapist. People are always telling me, wow, your dad must be so great at listening and helping in times of need, both of which are true, but when it came to my eating disorder, he was the embodiment of a dad joke. In my 2nd week of treatment, he drove down for the very important family meeting. This was to be led by my resident therapist and was taken incredibly seriously by the staff. My meeting happened to be scheduled during my designated snack time, so my portions were predetermined, and it was essential that I finish each bite independently. So, I walk into this very important meeting, begrudgingly holding my cup of Chex Mix, and right as the therapist begins to speak, my dad reaches over, snatches the cup out of my hands, pours half of its contents into his mouth like a caveman, growls, and says, I love the pretzels. So, yeah, having a degree in social work does not necessarily give you the answers to dealing with your teenage daughter's bulimia. I don't blame my parents for not knowing what to do. Hell, I had no idea what to do. Playing Barbies as a kid, I'd always dreamed of being 17. But there I was, forced to drink a Pediasure because I couldn't finish my Reuben on Rye lunch. Now that's the dream. I felt really alone. I felt misunderstood. And sometimes I just felt nauseous. Relearning how to digest food at 17 will do that to you. When it comes to eating disorders or alcoholism or any ism, I think there's a common denominator that no one in recovery ever talks about. The truth of the matter is, despite battling the frequent trips to the bathroom, the constant taste of mouthwash, and that bit where my life completely fell apart, I kind of miss my eating disorder. There was a rush I got in my routine. A certain rush we all get when we numb out the pain. But after a while of feeling numb, I could no longer feel my life. And that is not something I ever want to give up again.
You said you would love me, embrace me, accept me for who I am. You said you would fight all the shitty men for me. You said in that dignified voice of yours that you would protect me from him, the one who hurt me. I remember how it was when I came back to my dorm. Freshman year, you were on my mind the entire night. I used you as a shield. Now you said to me, you said you would protect me from that shitty man and all the shitty men that are to come. You said you would call your brothers, but what would you do? I asked, and you never answered. You sat there brooding over your reply, your choice, whatever promise you laid out in front of us. Pensive. Perhaps unconsciously. But now, I can see you regretting and gritting your teeth quietly, as if you were right in front of me, even though we haven't seen each other in a million years. I can see you pulling your words back the very night we had our one and last disagreement. I can hear your words as if you were speaking through me. If we met again, would you apologize? You said you would. You said you would chase me back, protect me, embrace me, except you didn't actually say that. You said you would love me, understand me, but do you remember that day when I ran to you? Happy that I finally figured out that part of myself, when I ran to you and I said, I don't want to be called a woman. That horrified look on your face. I'll never forget it as long as I live. You, who I share all of myself with, who understands me, accepts me for who I am. Remember what you said? You're always a girl to me, you said. Always a girl. You repeat, you're always a girl to me. As if you're trying to snap me out of it. As if you're trying to convince yourself. It all seems laughable now. You never saw me as anything other than a girl, a bitch, a body. I bet you really meant it when you called me a bitch and a faggot. I bet you and your good bros call all the girls bitches and all the ones like me faggots. It all seems laughable now. Laughable. You said you would protect me. What changed your mind? You said you would be there for me always. Who stopped you? Everything is laughable. You said you would, but nothing came through. I loved you. I would have loved you, but what's that? Why are you going on a date with her if you said you would be with me? Why are you doing things that you said you wouldn't do? What's all this? I'm so confused, and you said it's okay, but it really isn't. I can feel it in my blood and bones. I want to believe you. And maybe I do, but remember when I shouted at you? Remember when I called your friend a criminal? When I begged you to stand with me, to stand with women, to stand against crime and violence and the so-called brother code? A long time ago, you knew what was right and wrong, and now your eyes are veiled. But so was I. I was veiled from your crimes, your prejudices, your lies. Now, I laugh at your laughable past, our past, everything. You said you would, but you didn't. You never did, and that was the sign. That was the God-sent sign, and now I understand.
The blinker on this document is laughing at me. Ha, ha, ha. Its repeated blinking resembles the laughter of an open mouth of emptiness that expels a sound that can be so endearing, but also so annoying depending on the context. In this case, I am annoyed because the blinker on this page is laughing at me because it knows that I am not a writer and that I will be ignored once again in the writer's world. It is mocking me for my decision to be an English major at UNC. I laugh when someone asks me what my major is, a nervous laugh that says it all. I laugh when I think about how stupid I was when I envisioned myself at UNC, at how I quite literally was so focused on everything else in my life that I did not realize that I was approaching a brick wall that I could not tumble. Who was I to think my dreams would come true, that it would be easy to be a writer? Look at me. I am a Mexican-American, first-generation college student who is an introvert and is constantly stressed all the time. I am traumatized. I have content galore of my shitty life thus far, but I cannot ever get it down because I am so afraid. I am terrified that what I write is so stupid that I will only be laughed at. Laughter that echoes in my ears from an imaginary audience that constantly mocks me because I am pathetic. How dare I, the daughter of immigrants, be a writer? I will never forget my mother's reaction when I told her that I wanted to be a writer. That I dreamed of the days in which I would see my books on the shelves, my full name on display in a Barnes & Noble, in cute little bookstores in New York City, or on the kitchen table of my childhood home. My beaming smile directed at her. Because would you look at that? I did it! That I dreamed of her warm hug on the day my first novel was published because she has been my #1 supporter, my role model in strength since day one. So imagine how I felt when she laughed. I will never forget her laugh. The almost giggly, loud, high-pitched laughter that is usually heard from younger children who only know how to laugh. She didn't say it, but she thought it was the most ridiculous thing she had ever heard. My father wasn't very engaged, so he kept quiet. But from both parental sides, I could feel like I was not understood. Ouch. Right? But I also expected it. Writing is hard. And to succeed, you have to be worthy. A large part of my internalization of not writing comes from the belief that I am not worthy of a platform. That my stories and my voice are not crucial to the existence of others. I am not worthy of writing because I have not yet processed my own existence. I do not have any answers to offer. I can only complain of the unknown, of the injustices of this world, and how fucking tired I am of trying. In my case, the blinker laughs because it knows all of this. It knows about the late nights where I would jot down what I thought were revolutionary thoughts, lulled to existence by the quiet night that I romanticized into being wonderful, even worthy of being published. But the next day, when I look back at what I wrote in a frenzy, I laugh with the blinker, and I never open the document again. Google Docs and my iPhone's Notes app hold my secrets, and I keep them just in case. But it has been years of laughter, and I am nowhere closer to having the courage to pursue becoming an established writer. For now, I continue to live. And maybe, just maybe, I will have the last laugh as I continue to study at a place my ancestors could not have imagined that a person like me could have ever aspired to be in. Is that not what life is about?
I am grateful for your example of what not to be. When I was young and you were middle-aged, you showed me that a dysfunctional marriage looks like holes in the walls and sounds like death threats. I am grateful for the accident that was my older brother, which coerced two Bible-thumping Baptists into a shotgun wedding 28 years earlier that produced me as a byproduct. I am grateful to have seen you nearly throw yourself off of a rented balcony in Wrightsville Beach while our friends looked on, and to see you swallow a handful of pills in the kitchen while your family watched. I'm thankful for the stares in my direction as your husband, my father, walked his two preteens through an inpatient facility to see their mother recovering. I'm grateful, no matter how much you wanted to, you never got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, so you didn't have an excuse for your behavior. I am indebted to every time you relapsed and left a slurred message on your ex-husband's, still my father's, answering machine. I will forever cherish the words, drugged out urchin who doesn't care about the world, as the most creative pet name anyone has ever given me. I remember fondly the clink of ice in your abusive boyfriend's glass as he stood hiding behind your shower curtain, waiting for your children to leave, and how I had to keep him quiet, then convince my brother that, in fact, he did not have to pee before we evacuated your lair. I'm lucky I knew where you hid your aristocrat when I was 10, so I got my drug use out of my system while I was still young and had a real chance to recover. I'm grateful I met new friends when my middle school friends disowned me for smoking pot, and years later in high school that my best friend's older brother didn't feel bad about selling his 17-year-old sister cocaine. I thank every dealer I ever had for the stuff cut straight off the key because it instilled in me a life-saving quality control. And after all the lawyers, court fees, community service hours, and mandatory group therapy sessions, I'm even appreciative of the cops who arrested me in my dorm room, despite their pig-headedness. I'm grateful the first blow I did after probation made my heart pound but not explode, and later that month for getting fired while coming down from acid, then crying in the parking lot. I'm grateful you were alive to witness from afar your daughter revel in the disease that has taken your liver and your lungs and watch it try to destroy her. I'm lucky to have only been caught once drunk driving, and that it wasn't when I drove the wrong direction on Carolina Beach Road at 3 a.m. to get laid. I would not have been able to stomach that kind of embarrassment. I'm thankful I'm a friendly drunk, so my arresting officer liked me and let me sit in the front seat without handcuffs on the ride to the station. I'm grateful I don't suffer from mental illness or extreme trauma. You never hit me or my brother. You reserved all of your violence for our father. And when he took the pictures to court, I'm grateful you never tried to fight for us. Years of blackout have in fact helped me cope with my little trauma, albeit in an unorthodox way, a way that despite my wellness has left me with anxiety just short of crippling, and fear that I will never have enough time or sense to complete everything I want to do. Making up for all the lost evenings spent turning my mouth numb with the last of a bag and flying all over town to find more. I'm grateful that my years of hedonism have left me with an unwavering fear of death. Like I got away so many times, the Reaper has a bounty on my head. But I'm grateful, Mother. You will die before I'm 30. 2 years to go. I've never seen anyone die, but it's only right you should be the first. you will cry, I will cry. I will be grateful to rightfully mourn your death, unlike all the times I mourned your absence when I was too young to understand it was for the best. I will be happy to tell my coworkers and friends, new and old, that my mom died. The ones who know me, the ones who don't know me will say, I'm sorry for your loss. And the ones who do know me won't say a word. When having drinks, I will recount your stories with fondness and uncontainable laughter, perhaps even a tear in my eye. I'm grateful to have witnessed your war between substance and humanity, wretchedness and righteousness, homelessness and motherhood. I'm grateful your war has given me ideas on how to fight my own, and when you die, I will be grateful not because you are dead, but because you are finally done fighting.
I don't mention it very often, but the biggest reason I came to UNC is because I received the Covenant Scholarship. For all intents and purposes, it's a full ride, meaning everything is paid for and I'll graduate debt-free, but I've never been able to call it one. I remember the day I found out I had actually qualified. It was piss-pouring rain, and I burst through my front door, soaking wet and smiling from ear to ear. I remember we had this end-of-year ceremony, my senior year, where at the end of the night, they called up all of the seniors who had gotten scholarships and read out how much money they had gotten, which, if you think about it, like really think about it, is so fucking shitty. This is a county where some kids were lucky to get lunch at school every day. I went to an elementary school where every Friday, they sent kids home with enough groceries to get their families through the weekend. And I let them read out to half of my high school and to their parents who were doing the best that they could to feed their families, that I had received the equivalent of just under $100,000 over the 4 years of school. So when people started asking me about my full ride scholarship, I told them, oh, it's not really a full ride. It's just debt-free. And when they told me how proud I should be to have been accepted to such a wonderful school, I told them, well, they've got to let so many broke kids in each year. That's what I called it, the broke kid scholarship. I still do. And I'm not proud of it. And I should be, shouldn't I? It's not nothing. It's a good scholarship to a hard school. I worked my ass off since before I can remember to get to this point. But I'm not proud of it. I'm baffled by it. I told myself when I got to UNC my first year that I was going to make friends with a bunch of other Covenant scholars and get involved and feel connected to that part of myself. That I'd go to First Gen events and participate in the mentor program and take advantage of all the extra perks they give us. But life got in the way, and I made friends with people without thinking of who was paying for them to be here. And I promise that I don't regret that decision. I don't. I love my friends more than anything in the world. They're my family here, and I couldn't do it without them. But every now and then, something just slips. Someone makes a comment here, laughs at something that they thought was a joke there, and the floor falls out from under me. Suddenly, I'm not a successful 20-something college student at one of the best public universities in the country. Suddenly, I'm a small, lost girl from some fuck-off-nowhere redneck town who's in way over her fucking head. I forget that my friends' parents are doctors and lawyers. That they didn't have to fill out free lunch forms every school year. That they can take unpaid internships over the summer without worrying about how they'll afford groceries. That they didn't get invited to horribly condescending etiquette dinners their first year in an effort to help them blend in with their peers. And in those moments, it's so hard to hide how badly I want to fucking scream. When I have conversations with my friends from the Triangle about rural North Carolina, it makes me want to vomit. How How can I exist in these spaces without laying my financial aid statement on the table and taking a bright yellow highlighter to each of the times that their parents' taxes and alumni contributions allowed me to get a bachelor's degree? How can I listen to them, cast their pity, without reminding them of the fact that what little college fund my parents had put together for me was used to make sure we didn't lose our house? I'm honestly ashamed of how well I've assimilated into their vision of success. Do I have to dust off the thick accent my Nana so generously gifted me every time I want to be perceived as the person that I actually am? And if I didn't have to, if they actually saw that person day in and day out, would they still be my friends?
To the girl who sat on the opposite side of my history lecture hall, when you showed up in the next semester in my English class in a bicycle helmet, I fell a little bit in love with you. I don't remember if I ever got your name, but I remember that purple bike helmet. I was only a sophomore then, but I thought it was so cool how you bike to campus. She's eco-friendly, I thought, independent. I imagined a future where I went up and talked to you, the cool senior. And we moved into a cottage in Europe. And then we biked everywhere. To the person in my fiction class who wrote about ghouls and gay goddesses, I wanted you to know that I was gay too. I never told you, but I kept hoping you would get it from the love stories I wrote. I remember this one that you wrote about a goddess and her disciple. You were the person in that class I wanted to be friends with. And if you were that guy that was sitting outside of Lenore that almost punted a squirrel after it almost fell on you from a tree, I saw that. And if you were anybody else that also saw that, I think we are in a sacred covenant together now. With each other, but also with that squirrel. Because that moment was once in a lifetime. To the first year I met last year in a Zoom class who complained to me about CAPS and your meds. I get it. I hope you're doing okay. How's your sophomore year going? I'm sorry, I'm bad with names. When I first started to do this monologue, the only thing I could think of was my loneliness. So many of my memories of campus are tinged by the hunger pains of loneliness. They bowl me over like some soul wound from another life. A few days ago, I told my best friend, I feel like a statue. I am a stone statue sinking into 5 years of mud. And I am the mud, suffocating and heavy. And I am the rain that made the mud wet and angry. And I am the groundskeeper who is long dead. It's not that I don't have anybody next to me, but rather that I don't know if I can love. Medication was supposed to fix me, but it just made me cold. All that's to say is I get it. Me too. I fucking get it. But hey, I saw you, and I like your shoes. You look like the kind of person who would steal blue books from the student stores, and I respect that. It can be hard to see chalk-written messages like, it gets better, and you're loved, when nobody has ever said that to you in real life. It can feel empty. I get it. But I saw you. I thought you were cool. You taught me something. You made me look forward to class. I wondered about you. And I never told you. So, someone will miss you. Someone will remember you. It doesn't hurt to try and hope. I love you.
Thank you.